Hey everybody, welcome to Industry Night with me, Nycci Nellis, the show that takes you on the deep dive of the happenings of the hospitality industry. If you're new here, a little bit about me. I've been covering the food, wine, and hospitality scene primarily in the DC metro area, but honestly, I'm a little national and international too for the last 20 years. You certainly will read the list, areyouonit.com, the online e-zine that tells you everything happening here in the DC market. Of course, you follow me at NYCCI, Nellis, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Threads, I don't know, every platform where I can tweet or take a photo, you can find me there. And of course, now we're on YouTube with this fabulous show, Industry Night. Lastly, do tune in every Sunday on 1500 with my husband David and I. We just celebrated 15 years on air with Foodie and the Beast. It's DC's only food and wine variety show. Now, you may notice if you've been here before that I am in a totally new location, and I am. It's my new residency. I'm at the Point, which is at Buzzards Point here in Washington, D.C. It is a fascinating area. It is a sparkly, beautiful area, total new development. And what's interesting is that you have the wharf on one side and you have Navy Yard on the other, and they all converge here at Buzzards Point, where the Point DC is. And my generous benefactor here today, who's brought me here to do the next month of shows, is Greg Casten. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Nycci. How are you?
It's so good to have you here. First of all, thank you so much for having me do the show here for the month. I'm very excited about the kind of guests I'm bringing in. But I would love for people to know a little bit, because you've got your big pro fish there on your chest, like how a fish guy gets into the restaurant industry.
Boy, it really goes all the way back to growing up on the shore in New England and working in fast food and flipping burgers and loving the challenge of executing a shift, right? Every restaurateur knows in his heart, really the thrill of it is to have that perfect shift, to be able to deliver all the food right, on time, to the right person, in the right condition. And it's challenging.
And with a smile.
And with a smile,
right?
And with a come see us again, no matter how mad you were or how happy,
right? So, so let's talk about, because your group, Fish and Fire
Food Group, right,
has how many restaurants?
We have 4 now and 2 in the works.
Okay, so let's list them off.
So there's Tony and Joe's and Nick's Riverside Grill, which have been in the family since the Dancing Crab days, which unfortunately went along the way of a lot of crab places. Back in the late 2000s. Mm-hmm. And then we have Ivy City Smokehouse, and the Point DC is our most recent opening in 2020. We're about to open in Deanwood, a place called The Strand that is going to take a historical theater, and we're going to partner up with some people over in Deanwood and try to open a fun neighborhood place there. And
is that a new development too?
It's a standalone building that's on the corner of Nanny Helen Burroughs and Division Avenue. No, it's really in the neighborhood, right next to Woodson High School.
Okay.
It's a beautiful part of DC that people don't see as much every day. Will be, I think, the only sit-down restaurant. It's in Ward 7.
Okay.
As you know, I like to reach out to the up-and-coming development or emerging neighborhoods. Not development. I like the old feel, the Nitty-Gritty Washington, D.C., which is Buzzards Point. I mean,
but let's talk about it, because like when I think of, Washington Harbor is now, a standard DC location, but when you opened up there,
concrete plants.
I mean, there was nothing there. It was a sand pit.
And
Ivy City, no different. And now here, I mean, listen, it's a bit of a construction zone still, but you have the Anacostia and the Potomac Rivers coming together. I mean, it's beautiful.
It's the deepest part of the 2 rivers. I use it in our marketing, the confluence of 2 historical rivers. People don't realize the Anacostia was actually the river the British came up on barges when they burned Washington in 1812, and it dried up. And over the last 10 years, the federal government, the district government have had this massive $5 billion effort to get the waters deeper and swimmable.
Right.
And it's very close now to being both of those. But it's a wonderful part of the city with extraordinary wildlife, beautiful views. It's really just like Washington Harbor was in the late 80s.
Right. Well, to me, the fact that so much time has gone by, even if we talk about the wharf, which is all shiny and new,
Yeah, beautiful.
and Navy Yard, but those areas were just these gorgeous areas, beautiful views that were just not being utilized.
It was amazing the way cities neglected their waterfronts.
Yes, that's a perfect way of saying it.
And I think that came to a realization. I think Tony and Joe's was on the avant-garde of that. I credit a guy named Herb Miller, who is actually the connection between this and Washington Harbor, which were both very visionary places to go put money, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you look at this space, it's 13,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's not small.
22-foot ceilings.
Mhm.
This used to be the FBI headquarters, and after that, it was the Coast Guard headquarters. It's got a lot of history.
Right.
Took a lot of risk to convert that to be something all Washingtonians can enjoy, and I'm really lucky to have been part of it.
Well, can we talk about your vision a little bit? Because, you know, you have to really be able to look at nothing to create something. So how did you know, like, I want a patio that looks like X, or I want the building to look like Y? What was the feel? Because none of your places look the same. Like, it's not like there's you don't.
It's a very interesting question. You know, a lot of it is, the key word is feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I would come here a lot when I took a long time to sign the lease. And I would actually sit here at night and people would be looking at me like, it was abandoned. There was
Right.
nothing here. The building wasn't active. And, and then you work with your team and you talk things out in the design stages and you get a feel. This restaurant, what I wanted the message I wanted was strength,
Right.
fish, a tribute to the fishermen. And if you look through the design in here,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of steel, but there's lights that resemble a shack from Mississippi where you might buy your crayfish, or there's some electric neon lights or neon-like lights that look like what you might find on the Eastern Shore. And then the bar has the underside of a boat feel to it where you might be an ocean-going craft.
Right.
Being in the fish business, tying it in, that was what spoke to me naturally. The view was easy. I mean,
The view is easy. So you have this expansive patio with fire pits, a great bar. I want to just sort of end on the grill and like what you're eating when you come here.
Fish and
Because
fire
the grill is, like, big.
That's the grill is a 9-foot wood fire grill, and that's part of what our name is. We have a huge fire pit and then multiple
12
smaller
foot.
foot.
It's a 12-foot
12-foot grill.
To
I
correct
thought it was
you.
14.
Yeah,
sorry.
that's all right. I got
But
you.
we specialize in fish. The best way to cook fish, high heat, quickly, right?
Right.
Don't overcook the fish, but you like that crisp taste without it being fried.
Right.
That's where we try to get. We work with whole fish specials every day. Our chef, Dave Stein, comes up with wonderful ways to marinate and make that fish just pop. And then everybody likes a good steak and a nice piece of chicken off the grill. So it was a natural to bring it all together.
All right, great. Greg, thank you so much
Nikki,
for having me.
Thank you. It's always fun to be with a pro.
And I'm very excited to be here for the next month. So we're going to come up with lots of fun ways to bring you back in. So we'll do it
We'll
soon.
be around.
All right.
Enjoy it.
Well, we just talked with the man, the myth, the legend, Greg Casten. Once again, I'm so grateful and thankful that he is hosting Industry Night here at the Point, DC. Now, if you pay attention to my Insta, you know that I've been traveling a lot and I've also been eating a lot. So, but I have these two very special guests today. So I don't want to waste their time because we're probably going to talk about eating in a little bit. But I do want to mention a couple of the places I've been eating at that if you have not been to, or you're like, hey, Nick, where should I be eating? If you're out in the Bethesda area, you've got to go check out Matt Adler and what he's doing. The Caruso's out there. The food, it's Italian. It's so on point. It's not like Italian, like I just went to Italy Italian. It's more like New Jersey, New York Italian. They don't say mozzarella. They say mozzarella. And that's the kind of Italian you're going to eat there. Dear Sushi, David Deshays and the team at Love Mikado. I've told you so much about the omakase, their beloved barbecue. I had not gone to the sushi omakase. It's fantastic, very unique, very affordable, and a really serene situation. So definitely check that out. Let's see, where else have I been? Oh my God. Hello, Chefs for Equality just ended. So if you weren't able to join us this year, you missed the party of DC. David Hagedorn, Anthony Hasilis, Mark Indre, Amber Fow, myself, AJ Johnson, Adra Williams, Jackie Ludden. I know I'm missing somebody. Matt Eppright. Anyway, we are an all-volunteer group that puts on an 800-person baller event for the Human Rights Campaign. We raise funds for civil liberties for everybody, especially those in the LGBTQIA community. It's an amazing event. Go check my Insta so you can see all the fun we had. Thank you to all of you who came, and a special thanks to all the chefs, pastry chefs, mixologists, and all those who donated so generously this year, because it is without a doubt our biggest year ever. Okay, 2 other places that I hit that you need to check out if you haven't. I went to Daru. It's a fabulous little neighborhood Indian restaurant on 8th Street Northeast. It gets a lot of play. The food is very good. The service is terrific. Actually, their wine person is amazing. Her name is Mitzi, and she's terrific. I'm not going to tell you if you're in Georgetown to race over to Daru, or if you're coming from out of town to come to Daru. But if you're on 8th Street, or if you're in those neighborhoods, it's definitely worth checking out. I also did pop into Eric Bruner Yang's Machetto, because it's always so good, and I love him. And we had a fabulous dish there. And the staff is amazing. Again, it is on 8th Street Northeast. It's not in my point of view all the time, but if you're over there, definitely one to keep on your list. Okay. So as a regular listener of the show, you all know that I love to travel. I love it. But I really don't love making the travel plans. Like, that's so not in my wheelhouse. And when I was a less seasoned traveler, this is quite a few years back, I went to this hotel overseas, and I had done all the planning. I made all the reservations. I did all the things to put this trip together. And it was really stressful, quite frankly. And when I arrived with my husband at this hotel, the concierge greeted us, gave us a little bit of bubbly, and was like, I would love to know what you plan on doing while you're here. And I was like, oh, here's my itinerary. And he was very gentle with me and said, can I fix it? And I was like, oh my God, yes. Would you please fix my itinerary? And he and I had this wonderful conversation afterwards. And he basically said to me that wherever you travel, you should always find out about the concierge program at that hotel, because that can really make or break your trip. And I have taken that advice and used it going forward. But it really occurred to me that there's so many people who don't really understand the expertise a concierge brings to the table, or how to use a concierge or work with a concierge in such a way. Now, I am sitting with 2 people that I've known for actually a really long time. I don't know Leslie as long as I know Jeff, but I do know both of them very, very well. They are both very highly visible concierges in the DC area. Leslie Fulton, she is the lead concierge at the St. Regis. Jeffrey Morgan, who is the chef concierge at the Conrad. Now, I've known him since he was at the Four Seasons. And here's the thing about both of them that they share in common, because they did not come to these roles on a similar path, but they are both generous souls. They are thoughtful problem solvers, and they really convey hospitality, not just in their work life, like professionally, but also personally. And I think there's something to that when you are a concierge. So they are both past presidents of the Washington Area Concierge Association. You're the current president. My apologies. And they're also members of, and I hope to God I don't butcher this, Le Clefs d'Or. Le Clé d'Or, my French sucks. Okay, so let's get an education. So hi to both of you. Thank you so much for joining me. So Jeff, I kind of want to talk with you because you went the chef route, legit chef route first. Let's talk a little bit about your background and how you wound up being at the desk as a concierge in this industry?
It was a very circuitous route that I took, just because of the fact that I did go to culinary school. I went to Johnson & Wales. I loved it and was really fortunate enough to go through a internship program where I was able to go to Paris. And in that internship program, I was had these experiences that were once in a lifetime experiences. It was run through the Chamber of Commerce. It's called Paris. It's called École Ferrandi.
Okay.
And through them, I was afforded the opportunity to go to Ritz Escoffier, the Cordon Bleu.
Wow.
And just had some amazing experiences and met some really incredible people and just still are friends with them today. And after that, I came back. I had my own catering company in Rhode Island and then just was in the back of the house cooking.
Okay.
When I first got to DC, I started at Red Sage. That was...
Oh my God.
I know.
Me back.
Christopher Vasquez and I were at Red Sage working together way back when.
Right.
And that was in the 90s.
I always forget he was at Red Sage first because I know him from Zentina. I don't think I knew him at Red Sage.
So
we are so dating ourselves.
I know.
Go ahead.
But I loved it. And I love the hospitality industry. And you really do. It's something that's in your veins. If you know it, you love it, it's something that you're always going to enjoy.
How did you wind up from the back of the house, not just to the front of the house, because it's not like you're a host in a restaurant. How did you wind up at the desk as a concierge? What was that?
I was working for Robert Wiedemeyer at Aquarelle.
Oh my God, in the Watergate Hotel.
In the Watergate Hotel. And he decided that he was going to leave the Watergate and open up his own place, which was to be Marcel's. And he introduced me to Mr. Stan Bromley at the Four Seasons. Everybody knows Stan. And his son, Mark, is now the GM at the Four Seasons right now.
The family.
It's a small world in the DC industry, especially in hospitality. So I was working in the back of the house, but Robert said, I want you to go home, put on a suit. I need a manager in the front of the house. That was the first time I did it, and that was at Aquarelle.
Okay.
And then I left Aquarelle and started was going to go in the kitchen, work in the kitchen at Four Seasons, but they said, you know what, we'd like to put you in the front of the house. So I went as an assistant manager, and I ran the garden terrace.
Oh my God.
I'm dating myself.
I got plenty drunk in that garden terrace, let me tell you. We'll talk about that off air. Go ahead.
But the garden terrace was great.
I had a boss who, my boss, we worked right next door to the Four Seasons.
The high tea?
I had a
it was amazing.
Who totally believed in 3 martini lunches. And I didn't drink martinis. There were days I have no idea how I got home. But anyway, I digress a lot. Okay.
But someone, actually Javier Lorero, was the head concierge, came up to me and said, would you be interested in being a concierge?
Right.
I told him I had absolutely no idea. He said, you have the wherewithal and you have the means and you have the personality and think you'd be good at it. And I had a lot of connections in the chef industry, not as many, or had quite a few just being in the industry, loving it. And just so it just made a huge connect for me, just going from F&B to concierge.
Okay.
And so I started, and 18 years later, I was president twice of the Concierge Association. This is my 3rd time being president.
Wow.
And I love it. I just really enjoy working with people, being and doing things for people and orchestrating their trips.
Well, we're going to get into that.
Okay.
So I'm going to put a pin in you for a second. Leslie.
Not easily done. I apologize.
Yes, I know. I'm going to put a pin in you for a second. So Leslie, let's talk about you. I mean, your route here is not the same as his at all.
No.
What made you decide to become a concierge?
So I was a stay-at-home mom with 3 boys.
Okay.
And I was like the organizer of the neighborhood. I would rent buses to go up to the Orioles, see the Orioles games. I love stuff at the Kennedy Center.
So you could plan my travel trip.
Yeah.
You like to plan.
Yes, I'm a planner. So then what happened was, for my 40th birthday, my husband and I went to the Cayman Islands, stayed at a Hyatt, and I met the concierge for the first time. I never knew what a concierge was. I never traveled like that. And I thought, oh my gosh, if I ever go back to work, that's what I want to do. And so at the time, my husband had a job that was based in New York, and sure enough, 6 months later, he lost his job. And I thought, okay, now is my opportunity to get out of the house and find something else. So I ended up going out to the Vienna Women's Center, which was a counseling center for women going back to work or whatever. And there on the bulletin board was a little job fair at the Hyatt in Reston.
Wow.
And they were looking for shuttle drivers, laundry, housekeepers, front desk. So I thought, okay, I could work the front desk, learn that, and then concierge is what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I called my hairstylist that morning, got my hair cut, went over with no resume, no references, walked into the job fair, and I said, well, I really want to be a concierge, but I'll start at the front desk. And they said, oh, well, we might have something for you. And sure enough, they had a position on the concierge level available. So I went there and I got the job, and I started working with a Lake Clador concierge who was in the lobby, who was very involved with Washington Area Concierge Association.
So you had a mentor.
Yes. Yeah. So that's kind of how it started. And I thought I'd start in Reston, Virginia first because I didn't know anything about concierging. So I worked there for about a year and a half, and then I'm sitting at a holiday party with a new employee, and I said to him, where did you come from? And he said, oh, the Park Hyatt. I said, oh, that's where I want to work.
Right.
And he said, oh, there's a position, a concierge position open. So from the Reston Hyatt, a year and a half later, I ended up at the Park Hyatt.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, so now let's talk, for those who don't really know what a concierge is, because that term, 30 years ago, it did have a very specific term, but it's thrown around a lot these days as a service, right? Yes. What does it mean, Leslie? What does it mean to you as a, you're at the St. Regis?
Sure.
What does it mean
Sure.
to you?
So I think about like we're a hotel concierge.
Right.
I have a sit-down desk. A lot of people have stand-up desks, but we are a separate desk from the front desk. We have a sign on our desk that says concierge, and we help our guests with whatever needs they have: restaurant reservations, transportation, coming to the airport, private tours of the city bus tours, tickets to theater, anything that anyone needs help with. And it's a free service. And that's what's a little difficult with our industry as concierge, is that people don't really, people have told me, oh, we're afraid to talk to the concierge because you don't
I
seem
want to be best
approachable.
friends with the concierge.
Yeah.
I like walk in, David goes to check in, I'm like, I'll be back. I'm like, hi, I'm Nycci Nellis.
Yes. But people have to know that it's a complimentary service. It's a service provided at mostly luxury properties.
Right.
It is mostly luxury. And the thing is that we love what we do, and we're doing it for you because we want to do it. And we are there to assist the guest with whatever they need.
But let's talk about how to best use a concierge, right? Or work with a concierge. Because you and I have had off-record conversations about, last minute requests. Not that shit doesn't happen. But if I'm staying at the Conrad DC, or I know like 2 weeks out, I'm coming to DC and I'm going to be staying at the Conrad, how would you advise me to get in touch with you and work with you?
Well, for the most part, and this is with most luxury hotels, we do send pre-arrival letters. We reach out to the guest saying, hi, we're looking forward to your arrival. What can we do to help? We know that you're going to be staying this many number of nights. You're going to be this many people. And do you have any special requests? And with that, they respond. And then that's where we jump in and take our cue and say, oh, I see you're going to be here for 4 nights. There's a lot going on. Are you interested in any dinner reservations? Or is there somehow that we can assist you with maybe some theater or anything that would be of interest to you as a guest, or things that I would like to show or impart my knowledge to you of the city? Yeah. So something that you probably haven't seen or done.
And we're so lucky to be in Washington because there's so many free things.
Yeah,
right?
There's so
so
many
much
free
to do.
You don't have to book anything. A lot of, the restaurants you have to book, certainly, but for the most part, the museums, you don't need to book ahead of time. So we'll help them with itineraries, like go here in the morning. If you want to go see the Capitol, go in the morning at the Capitol, different things like that.
Right.
So we have it much easier in Washington, D.C. because you don't have to purchase a lot of tickets, where our colleagues in other cities and there's a lot that they have a lot more pre-stuff that they have to do.
But you do need to keep your fingers on the pulse.
Oh, for sure.
Of what's
Yes.
happening, and especially in elevated hotels, you're getting a pretty elevated clientele. You know,
Sure.
people, and you know, we all deal with people who think they know, or you know, so you have to sort of help guide them. I mean, I will tell you a story. It was so funny. This is years ago. I was at the area which is now the Wharf. But you both remember what it looked like before it was
Oh,
a Wharf.
yes.
There was a Phillips there,
Yes.
right? And God, it was atrocious. But there was, what was the group? There was a food and wine group that used to do an event there, a crab event every year. I know you know it. American Institute of Wine and Food, or Food and
Yes.
Wine, yes. So anyway, I used to judge this event. All the chefs would participate. But I remember, like, my first time there, I was like, where am I? And I see this older couple, a cab drops them off, and I see them like looking, and I'm like, can I help you? And they were like, well, our concierge, or somebody from the hotel, it probably wasn't a concierge, said we should come here for dinner. And I was like, no, you shouldn't. Call that cab back. I was like, I'm going to send you someplace else. I was like, you are not coming to DC and eating here. No two ways about it. But there is sort of this misconception that somebody's on the take.
Yes.
Like, you're not recommending restaurants or tour groups or something like that because you're getting money somewhere other than the hotel that's paying you. What do you? How do you answer that?
So Jeff and I are part of this international concierge association called Lake Lador,
Right.
and
I like the way you say it as opposed to how I say
no,
it.
it's just Lake Lador. I mean, it's spelled so oddly that you.
Well, it's
people
spelled in
laugh.
French.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
The key.
Yes, exactly. So we,
It's our code of ethics.
yeah, we're.
It's basically what we have and what we live by and how we live every day. Not
Yes.
just our job, but our everyday life. It's
Yeah,
just
so
that we know.
It's against. I mean,
Morals.
we're not sending people to restaurants because they're paying us to do that, and some people do have that conception. I know Vegas has that conception, and people. I'm like, no, we don't do that. I don't know what they do in Vegas, but we send guests to places that we know, we trust, we know they're going to be taken care of.
Right.
And it's the guest first.
Well, so let's talk about this organization. How did you find out about it? What do you have to do to become a member? What are the code of ethics? And does the hotel, like your hotel, become a member? Or is it just you? Like, how does it work? Like, how do I find out? Like, if I'm going to a hotel, how do I make sure that they are a part of the organization?
So, Lake Lador is the keys of gold,
Okay.
translated in French.
Mhm.
So when you walk into a hotel and you see a concierge wearing the gold pins, you know that this person is been around and has an intense knowledge. Because to become a Lake Lador member, you have to be a member of a concierge, hotel concierge, for a minimum of, when I was started, it was 7 years, but it's now 5 years.
Okay.
And I was fortunate enough to work at Four Seasons, where everybody was the Lake Lador but myself. So both Leslie and I were very fortunate to have mentors and to show us the ropes and
Okay.
teach us how to learn about the mechanisms, what you really want to know, how to be moral, keep your morals, but yet keep your fingers on the pulse and know what's going on. And it's not about what I want the guest to do. It's about what the guest wants to do and how I can recommend the best thing for them.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's really important, right? Because
Yes.
you may think, I may come to you and be like, this is what I want. And in your head, like maybe that couple, maybe I sent them to the wrong restaurant. Maybe they were like, no, this is what we want. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Maybe
Yes.
this person
Yeah.
heard them.
Yeah. So part of the Lake Lador is it is an international organization made up of about 4,000 concierge
Okay.
around the world.
Mhm.
So if Jeff has a guest that's going to Istanbul, or I have a guest that's going to Dubai, I can contact our friends over there and they will be well taken care of.
It's
Okay.
an
So we have-
incredible network.
Yeah.
Oh, so that part didn't occur to me. But now
Yeah.
that you say that, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So if I have a relationship with a concierge and I say, I'm going to X hotel there, it's just like it's like using the network.
Yes.
Right? Like a
Yeah.
somebody else's
Totally using it.
Rolodex.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And keeping the connections. I had a guest come up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, I see that you are Lake Leydor. Do you know?" And they pulled up a picture, and I said, "Oh my God, that's John. I know him so well."
Yeah.
And next thing I know, that next morning they came down. John says hi,
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Oh, it
that.
happens all the time. And that's what we love, those connections, right?
Right?
and it is.
And then
It's
so
amazing.
for our local association, it's
Yes.
called the Washington Area Concierge Association, and it's mirrored after Lake Leydor. So we have followed
So how
all.
old is the association?
So Lake Leydor is, I think it
No,
was,
no.
oh, Washington,
Washington area.
Because Lake
Concierge.
Leydor has been around for a really long
Yeah.
time,
It has.
right?
yeah.
Okay.
The Washington Area Concierge Association has been here for about 40 years. We
Okay.
started about 40 years ago.
Wow.
And the DC, we call it WACA, Washington Area
I know.
Concierge Association, is very well known. Like,
It is.
we were one of the early
Oh, yeah.
associations compared to other ones in the city. So in the
States.
country, yeah. So a lot of the Chicago, Dallas, San
Modeled after
Francisco,
you.
yes, exactly.
Well, I mean, I think DC is, given its size 40 years ago, between the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington and the Washington Area Concierge Association, there wasn't the breadth and depth that we have today.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So maybe because of that, it was able to really formulate how to behave, what to do, and, how to be a good membership-driven organization.
And how we've all grown together.
Right.
RAMW,
Yes.
WACA. It's just WACA, Rammies. I mean, how we've looked and learned Destination DC. It's what we've all done to promote the city as ambassadors for the city.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's what we really do, is want to show our guests what we have to offer. This city has such an incredible wealth of, sites and
Yeah.
monuments and just museums. It's really very fortunate. We're very fortunate to live in such a great city.
Oh, no, absolutely. And, listen, you made some very valid points about, the accessibility of so many
Mhm.
museums and things like that, unlike most cities around the world where, you
Right.
have to book
You have to
those
pay
tickets.
for, and you have to pay tickets.
Yeah.
Pay for the
Yeah.
tickets. You have to book the tickets in advance,
Mhm.
and it's really very much more difficult than it is for us in DC.
So now with WACA, how does is there a public engagement with WACA, or is it really just for the concierge? Is it education? Tell me what's happening there.
So with WACA, it's more about a public knowledge and a public interaction with our vendors and within the city as well. So we do have an incredible relationship with Destination DC. We're very fortunate, as well as Leslie has been working very closely with the American Experience Foundation. And, not only do we work well with the different organizations in the city, we also contribute back into the city, donating back into different areas of, for example, we had the American Experience Foundation. We did a fundraiser this year, and we're fortunate enough to give them a nice check.
What is
And-
the American Experience Foundation?
It's part of Destination
Destination
DC,
Okay.
but it's an educational arm that's a nonprofit that helps city kids, because we have some hospitality high schools in DC.
We do.
Yeah, so this organization helps educate these young kids,
Mhm.
get them involved with hospitality opportunities.
Culinary,
Yeah,
any area of the hospitality industry.
and then
Well, go ahead, finish.
So,
I'll
and
ask my
then
question.
from high school, they'll go into culinary schools or hospitality schools, and
Hotels as well. Kitchens,
and this,
kind of like just
and then-
DC Central.
like DC Central
yes,
Kitchen.
and then the American Education Foundation mentors them through college and
Mhm.
helps find scholarships for them. And
Mhm.
the Concierge Association in DC, we have a fundraiser. You say about the public, so
Right.
we have a fundraiser every year. It's a fundraising for, it's a gala. It's
Mhm.
a very nice event, and the public's invited, and we raise money for one community project and then a scholarship program too
Mhm.
for kids that are going into hospitality.
I love that. And, but one of the things, and I've talked about this with other people in the hospitality industry, listen, there's a shortage of employees, especially in the
sure.
hospitality industry. And it's affecting all arms of it.
Oh yes.
And there are young people who maybe aren't going to college, or maybe, don't know what the hospitality industry has for them. But one of the things I've seen firsthand is that if you grow up sort of in poverty, right? If you don't eat in restaurants, if you don't go to hotels, if you don't know, if you
Right.
haven't been sort
Exposed.
of not just exposed, but if you aren't given kindness, it is hard to give kindness back, right? So the question is how to reach young people who maybe don't have the advantages that many do, and show them that hospitality is a take and give.
Oh, for
That
sure.
when you do something amazing for somebody in your profession, the gratitude doesn't come all the time, I'm sure, but the gratitude, it's beneficial. It's what,
It's a
what-
personal gratification.
right?
Yes, it really is, and that's one of the best things that I love about it. And that's what it is. Is I get so much satisfaction in my job daily that I love giving back, and that's what the Washington Area Concierge Association is about. Lake Play Door is also about. It's about not only receiving but giving back, and that's the way life. I mean, going back to when I was a kid, my parents were always just like, you know what, you've been given, so you have to give back. So
I
it's
agree.
just
Yeah.
one of those things in life that I've learned at a very young age.
Well, but like I said,
Not
it's
everybody
great.
has
Not
that.
everybody has
True.
that. I used to call it the hospitality chip. That some people just have it. They want to, like, they're, you're sitting in a restaurant and they hear somebody talking about something. They're like, do you know? And I'm always like, yes, I do. Would you like me to help you? I can help you with that. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's some people who
Yes.
just like want to be that person.
Oh yeah.
And I know you both are, because I know how generous you both are. All right, so let's talk about some like nitty-gritty things in DC. Where somebody says to you, Leslie, listen, you're staying at the St. Regis. It is a very certain clientele. Same with the Conrad. I'm coming into DC for the day. I want a great place for lunch. I want something to do before dinner, and I want to go to dinner. Where are we going?
So you always have to ask them, like, what kind of cuisine would you
Right.
like? Do you want to have full table service?
Dietary restrictions.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff like
Right.
that. But what I love, especially when the weather's great, is I love the Wharf.
I know it's
I
great.
love the Wharf. I tell people, go see your museum or go to lunch first at the Wharf. It's a beautiful promenade on the marina.
It's
Lots
so
of people-
shiny.
It's people watching, and there's rooftop places, and
Yes.
so I love to send people to the Wharf.
Okay.
And then it's a quick walk to wherever you want to go in the National Mall area, to any of the
Yeah,
museums.
you just go up the stairs.
Exactly.
It's really amazing.
Yeah, it's great. And then, it just depends on their cuisine. Like, if they're going to be at the Wharf for lunch, then maybe they want to go someplace off the beaten track for dinner.
Mhm. Okay, so what's off the beaten path?
Yeah,
Come on, you're not
okay.
giving me names. Come on, give me one.
Well, so in my neighborhood, which I always love to send our guests to neighborhood restaurants.
Sure.
And so with this new mid-city center,
Mhm.
we have these great new restaurants. Shoto
Oh, yeah.
is there. We have Gazinono's there.
Yes.
We have
Great.
Dauphines.
Delphines is there, and Velotimo just opened.
Just
Nick
opened,
Stefanel
yeah.
is back open.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
No, so that's what I like to send guests in that are going to dinner in the neighborhood.
Okay, I love that.
Something fun, something different, and
Yes.
just like to see a different area of the, so if you're going to go to lunch at the Wharf, and which I do the exact same thing, I'll send them to Officina because, it's great, it's warm out, sit on the roof.
Oh my God,
have a
is this
nice
the Nick
lunch.
Stefanelli show with no special guest stars? Go ahead. He's not paying me. I just want to
We
remind
love
you.
Nick.
Okay, go
He's
ahead.
been a great support to us. That's what I should tell you.
Oh.
Of course. I mean, but
yes.
so many. We're just very fortunate
Yeah.
Yeah.
to have such a great city. And then, try something different. Maybe go to Georgetown or even downtown. I love Lardente.
Lardente is
Lardente is
great.
great.
Yes.
And
And that's also a totally new
new
area.
area, something
right?
different.
Jeff just took me there. I was like, we went to this new
Need Hospitality just opened
du
at
jour.
the
Bistro du jour.
Bistro du jour at
Yes.
the Sinesta,
Yes,
The
in
Royal-
Royal Sinesta.
Royal Sinesta,
Grand opening next week.
and it is amazing.
No.
Need Hospitality is also amazing.
They are.
We're very fortunate to have such great restaurants as I said, when I started here with Red Sage, that was the first non-meat, and potato restaurant.
Oh yeah.
It was just all steak and potatoes.
Mark Miller,
and one French, and Mark Miller just busted the scene. And ever since then, we've been growing and growing and growing, and that's what I love about the
that
city.
Mass Avenue is amazing.
It is amazing. I totally agree. I think what's fascinating.
We're doing a year at Buzzards Point.
I know.
Oh yeah.
I know. I mean, Greg Casten said he's like, it's you can't drive here because there's so much construction. I was like, or look at what's happening here because there's so much construction. Like it's just.
Amazing.
It's all good for the city.
It is.
It's all great.
And the expansion of the different areas, Navy Yard, the Wharf.
I know.
Georgetown has been great, but it's having a resurgence as well.
It's all where the city spends the money, and you can just see them spending the money everywhere. Okay, we're going to wrap up. I want to ask you guys, I'm trying to think what's the last question I want to ask. I want to ask you each. If I know you want to take in what everybody wants, but if there's something to see in this city that's not like, you don't see it everywhere, not the museum, stuff like that, but if there's something that you're like, it's so special, I want you the right person that you send them to that, what is it?
Well, for me, it's not new. It is a museum. It's Hillwood.
Oh, totally. Okay.
I love
That's my
Hillwood.
point. It doesn't have to be new, but something that you don't see in all the books. You don't find it everywhere.
Yeah.
Hillwood is
so there was just, I can't remember who wrote her book, but there was just a book I just read about, Meriwether Post, and it was fascinating. I had no idea. I mean, I knew that she was somehow related to an ambassador, and that's where she got her Fabergé eggs.
Right.
But her history is amazing.
Oh, incredible.
And, it's so. Now I have a whole new eye when I go visit there because there's so much that I learned about her family and her parents and why they have the little Adirondack cows.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's beautiful. So I love Hillwood.
And, and there are so many hidden gems. Glenstone. Love that.
I love Glenstone.
I mean, there are just so many unique, and it depends on the person, as I say. So, and I'm having a hard time with the name, but she has an amazing porcelain, hand-painted porcelain.
Yeah,
Anne Weatherly?
Yes.
And she does hand-painted porcelain, and she's located in Arlington.
Okay.
And she has a studio.
She has a studio.
But she sells in Neiman Marcus.
Wow.
She sells in Bloomingdale's. And I mean, it's one of those things
botanical.
Botanical. She's actually, her dishes are on the table at the Inn in Little Washington. I mean, she's just got it. She's local. And having a tea with Anne Weatherly is a unique experience.
That is cool. Okay, those are two.
My last thing that I really love, the cheap
I am taking notes. Go ahead.
Cheap way to get out on the water is take that water taxi.
Oh, I have done that.
I love the water taxi from the wharf over to Old Town because the one from Georgetown to the wharf doesn't have the upper deck, but the one from the wharf to Old Town, you can go upstairs, and I love
the bridge.
Well, I will tell you, one of my favorite things to do is I park my car in Bethesda. I rent a city bike. I take the bike down the Crescent Trail.
Yeah.
I park it down at the bottom, and then I walk over and I take the water taxi to the wharf.
Yes.
And then hang out at the wharf.
I love that.
To me,
it's
a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are great new restaurants in Old Town.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's all good news.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate. Okay. One piece of advice you want to give to anybody when dealing to find a concierge, because I think sometimes we don't know. Like I did go to a hotel I asked about the concierge service, that we have a great concierge service, but the concierge didn't really know the restaurants, and they knew how to get tickets, but I wanted somebody who wanted to be like, no, you want to go here. So how do you suss that out?
It's hard because there are, certainly I would always start and see if there's a Lake Leydor. I would always call ahead and say, can I talk to the top, the head concierge, the chef concierge, the lead concierge. And if they're not available, then they'll start with an email address. Get an email address. That's a great way to reach out to a concierge because then everyone on the desk is involved. But Jeff he might be better at restaurants. I might be better at theaters. Someone else might be better at where to shop. So there's no one is going to be perfect in everything. But if you try and find a Lake Lodore, and you can go on our Lake Lodore website.
Oh, okay.
And you can find hotels that have Lake Lodores, and that's open to the public.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Exactly.
Okay.
And, one thing that I love is that, being a seasoned, another word for being old, concierge, is that we're able to mentor and bring the younger generation into the fold and show them what it's like and how to do whatever you can do, and learn about the city, learn about the restaurants, become involved in the different organizations. And it is about just absorbing as much knowledge as you can and just having the next generation of concierge learn and be as good as, if not better than we are.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Well, thank you both
Thank
so
you
much
for having
your
us.
time.
This was so much
It
fun.
was very comfortable.
Really
Okay.
appreciate
So glad.
really
All right.
appreciate you
Let
doing
me just
this.
wrap up the show. So thank you so much for joining me today at our new residency here at the Point DC down on Buzzards Point. If you haven't been to this fabulous restaurant, it is massive and it is gorgeous, and the oysters are amazing. And if you are a patio person, you want to sit out there with the fire pits, sipping your drink and eating some oysters. It's really a wonderful way to spend the day. Everything you heard here today, you can find on thelistareyouwanna.com. You can also follow me at NYCCI, NELLIS on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And of course, you want to subscribe to the show, download it, ask us questions. You heard a lot of information here today. Feel free to ping me on any of those platforms and I will absolutely get back to you. Thanks so much for joining me today and have a delicious week.
Produced by Heartcast Media.